Hey America, this is David from www.fortruthsake.com and the Radical Conservative. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about 2014 and some of the things we've seen and what we see going on right now. I'm going to take you back to 2009 when Barack Obama was first elected, and the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, released a report detailing right-wing extremists. This is the report where military veterans were called threats to national security, patriots were called threats to national security, people believing in the Constitution, etc. Very little in there about radical Islamists, very little in there about gang warfare, anything of that nature. But anyway, essentially, they called everybody that supports the Constitution a terrorist, and little by little, they began setting us up. Okay, and this all reached its pinnacle in the year 2014 when the Bureau of Land Management, which, by the way, like all the other federal government agencies, belongs to the City of London Corporation. Look that one up sometime. Anyhow, when the Bureau of Land Management surrounded one man's ranch with 300 armed agents and over some taxes or some cattle or whatever the case may be. I don't care if they were going there because he was a murderer. 300 armed agents is a little bit too much. And in response, this was the kicker. This was the final straw. This is where patriots showed up and defended this guy. This is where people said, this is enough. But you see, that was a setup. And that gave them the perfect opportunity to refer back to their report that they released in 2009 and say, you see, these people are terrorists because they're here to fight the federal government. Yeah. Okay, well, then time goes on, this situation dies down, and we see another black kid get murdered by a cop. Well, he wasn't murdered; he was shot. The cop was justified in shooting him. The jury acquitted him. The jury wasn't going to indict him. It was a justifiable shooting, but the left, the communists, the race baiters instigate all this racial violence, and in response to what they perceive as racial injustice, they show us how fair they can be by burning down their own town. And these were paid protesters, people. These were people paid by communists to be there and burn that town down. Even the residents there didn't want to deal with all that stuff. But again, this was another situation where, once again, the patriots, local militia groups, oath keepers, okay, showed up and defended people's businesses and property, and and the negative light was fostered upon them, folks. They were once again referred to as terrorists and told that they were a threat to police. I think, in fact, some police asked them to leave or told them that they couldn't be there. And they were the ones that were made out to be the bad guy. Once again, it was a setup. It's just another situation bringing us to the brink. Okay, and you got the same thing going on again in New York City, um, with the race baiters, the communist group Answer, Act Now to End War and Stop Racism Coalition, and Occupy Wall Street are the folks behind these anti-police protests in New York. Um, so if you can't see, we're being set up, and the police are really being set up, folks. The police are the real target here. Okay, I wrote not too long ago an article about the creation of a national police force, which can be seen at fortruthsake.com. Um, but you see, this is what's been happening. The Department of Defense has been giving local police departments all this high-speed military gear, MRAPs, body armor, weapons, you know, and the training that they've been receiving. I think earlier in the year we saw a story about the targets that they were shooting at, just regular folks, you know, women carrying babies with a gun, regular folks walking down the road with a gun. They're being trained to be reactionary. So then they react, okay, and they use all this high speed military training that they're getting. And then the same people that gives them this gear turn on them and then side with the so-called oppressed. And it's because they're trying to start a war with the police, folks. It's the same tactic that was used down in, I believe, Venezuela to usher in communism. Yeah, okay. But you see, there's hope. And the hope lies with knowledge of who these people are, exposing them, and not standing for what they're doing. And the New York Police Department took the first step by turning their back on Mayor Bill de Blasio, who is an avowed communist. Okay, they turned their back on him when he showed up for the funerals and gave us speeches, and they need to be commended for that. The police need to know that they are being used. The police need to know that honest Americans will support police that uphold their oaths to support and defend the Constitution and the local laws with which they are working under. Okay? Because we're not against the police. We're not going to go burning down a town because they shot a criminal. You know, if a cop shoots in self-defense and it's proven to be self-defense, well, so be it. You know. But anyhow, I'm going to detail a lot of this more in my next article. Um, and with that, hopefully, with 2015 ushering in, we'll see more instances of this with the like the NYPD, and instances like in Oregon or in Washington or Oregon, where the pro-gun group stood up at the state capitol and told them, we're not going to comply with your draconian gun law. Hopefully 2015 will bring more of that in, and we'll be able to turn this around. Have a good night.